So that's a different thing from the paper, yeah?
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay, got it. Yeah, all
Oh, sorry, we're rolling.
right. We are rolling. Okay.
Come a little bit, yeah.
So the Pathogen Genomics Competency Framework is a tool that was designed by myself and my colleagues as part of a project which was called T3 Connect. And this project was funded by the UKRI, which is an organization that funds research in the UK, and it was intended to support training and capacity building for pathogen genomics.
Is that like to set global sort of competencies, training competency standards around the globe? Or?
So the reason we developed this competency framework is because we were interested, as part of the project, we were interested in understanding what different professionals need in order to do their jobs, in order to do their work. And this would be in a research setting, in a public health setting, in a clinical setting. And at the time, there wasn't a specific standard that could tell us this. And so we wanted to develop a framework that allows, that enables thinking through what is it that people need to be competent in, and and at what level do they need to be competent in a specific area of pathogen genomics.
Was there any kind of surveying done once you came up with the framework about doing it that's found, okay, yeah, this is a good measure in this country, this is what we take, and maybe they're not up to that, or was there exercise, a scoping exercise of any kind?
Yes, so what we did is initially we gathered information from some of the professionals that we were working with so that we could have have an understanding of how a tool like this could work. So in other words, we wanted to, the first thing that we did is we surveyed some of the professionals to determine, say for example, what level of knowledge do you need in conducting sequencing, or what level of knowledge do you need in analyzing genomic data. And when they were able to tell us that, well, actually, because of my job, I need to be able to generate sequence data, so therefore I need to be able to apply skills like this to do that. The same thing for analyzing data. If you're working, for example, in antimicrobial resistance field, you might be interested in having skills that enable you to take genomic or genetic data to then identify the variants or the mutations that cause antimicrobial resistance. And to do that, it means that you need a certain set of skills to do that. So the competency framework allows you to map yourself, so in other words, you assess yourself, but at the same time, somebody who could be like your teacher or your supervisor in your work environment can also use the same framework to determine what skills does this person need. And when you are able to sort of determine what level they are and what level of skills they need to have, you can then identify the gaps, and therefore you can upskill them to the level that you want them to get to. Yeah.
You said the framework is very different, obviously, from the paper. Was the framework ever used in sort of guiding the paper when you were looking at training? Was the framework ever featured in any way? Or was it
So the competency framework was part of a completely different project. The survey analysis paper, which is what you're talking about, that's a completely different program. Yeah, so maybe that needs there's no connection.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
I just wondered what the okay.
Okay.
What the challenges you come to framework practice? Okay, here's we go. Someone saying this question, and I don't know, and I hope it makes sense. Building capacity in genomics requires both infrastructure and people. What are some of the key challenges you've encountered in bridging the gap between training and practice?
Does
that make any sense?
Yes, so I think what people want to know is what are the challenges in translating skills into practice. So we do a lot of training, so we have a lot of people that come to our courses, for example, and not only our courses, but there's so many other courses that are out there. And as you know, one of the findings in the survey that we did is that there are many courses delivering maybe similar content, and the reason, and you'll find that some of the people that are attending courses that are developed by one institute, the same people are attending maybe similar courses by another institute. And one of the questions that we ask ourselves is, why is this person continuously going for courses or going for training? And it is exactly that perhaps there is a barrier in how they can either translate their skills to their work, so they still feel that there's a need for them to continue to go for training. So this is something that is actually quite common. And so one of the things that we try to encourage is that when somebody comes to a or does a training, that they're doing the training because they actually need to use the skills at that time. Sometimes if somebody gets some skills and they're not applying these in their current role, chances are they're going to forget. So when they now get to that point, they've forgotten everything and then they come back for another course. So we're very strict about, do you need to use those skills now? Are you doing a research project that's actually going to apply the skills? And then that means that they're able to actually translate those skills into practice. Without practice or continuously using them, then they lose those skills.
I was speaking to a gentleman about exactly that point. He says he's been on a couple of training programs and they're lovely, they're quite short and intense. When he goes back to his work, he doesn't use them.
Yeah.
Once those skills though, what do you say to someone like that until you get to use it?
Well, I mean, it's still important. I mean, one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is within the competency framework, it's important to sort of, determine, well, what sort of, say, competencies do you want to have, or what proficiency level do you want to have, and why? And so there's some questions that we encourage learners to ask themselves. The same thing with the trainers or the ones that are developing training, to say, what do you want them to able to have and why? So this is one of the sort of like fundamentals in what we call adult learning principles. Adults learn because they are motivated by something. Quite often they're motivated by their work, or they have to pass some accreditation or some assessment, or there's an upcoming project, so they want to be prepared. So if any of those principles are there, chances are they are going to be able to use their skills. If they're just learning for the sake of it, which is out of interest, there's a danger that they might not use the skills and then they lose them. So that is obviously one of the things that we try to be for people to reflect and to be quite specific about, why am I learning this? And because there isn't infinite time and there isn't infinite resources. So while you might want to go and learn everything to do with bioinformatics, I'm sure one supervisor might say, well, actually, we can only give you 2 or 3 days. So if you go out there, make sure you make the most out of those particular skills. And the other thing is that with these technologies like genomics, bioinformatics, they're also fast moving, things are changing. So if you're not going to use the skills that you learn probably in the near future, then new methods come up, new software comes up. So you're going to have to go back and learn. So it's always important to be very clear about what is it that you want to learn and why you want to learn it at the time.
Okay, actually, I wanted to know a little bit about the context. The study you did on training programs, what was the focus? Where were you looking?
Yeah.
So this global kind of perspective?
Yes. So what we were interested in, so it's part of the phased training and workforce development working group, because we have people that are coming from all over the world, and who are coming to form this working group to, first of all, understand what training initiatives are out there, what content or materials are available in genomics and bioinformatics, how can people access them, who is being trained on these courses, and so forth. So we conducted a survey, together with Nikki Mulder and her team, they facilitated a survey that would enable collecting this information. And we sent this information to people all over the world. We tried at least, but these were mostly informed by sort of like the contacts of people who are part of the working group. So you can understand that while we would have liked to have like global response, we have quite a lot of gaps. Like in some of the regions, we could only get maybe 2 countries responding. In some regions, we couldn't even get any people responding. But at least it gives us an idea or a baseline, and enabled us to actually identify some of the gaps within the training environment, such as, most of the training, for example, is really focused at a sort of introductory foundational level, and very few courses or trainings are focused at an advanced level. It also allowed us to identify some of the gaps in terms of the types of pathogens that are covered, so in terms of genomic of those pathogens. So for example, you have a lot of courses that are covering maybe viral genomics or bacterial genomics, but very few to none covering, for example, fungal genomics or even other parasites or other organisms. So this actually is where we are then advocating for collecting information that can be accessible, so that people can identify what is there, what is it that they could use, that they could need for their own programs, and also make sure that the materials that are there can be accessible. So this has also helped to create a database where people can search for this information, and they can identify the programs. They can also identify people that can help them with some of the work that they're doing.
You found, obviously, you said that you found that only 6% of the courses offered what you say, what will advance offerings.
Yes.
Is that understandable in the context of a technology that's kind of still new in many places?
Yeah.
Or is that like an issue that you identified that needs to be addressed within the next 5 to 10 years?
So in this case, when we say advanced, I guess it's also a relative term and can be quite subjective. But in this case, we're looking at a lot of courses will probably provide sort of like introduction to genomics. What is a variant? How do you call a variant? How do you set up, how do you access, for example, a database? How do you download genomic data? How do you upload it? How do you analyze it in the very basic sense? So, and because a lot of people are interested in genomics, it seems that's where a lot of the interest is. But we're also conscious that with more advances, and as genomics becomes even more important, we're going to need more workforce developed that can do more or higher level types of analysis, for example, in bioinformatics. So yes, it does reflect the field. It can seem a little bit sophisticated, and people might feel that they can't, it's too advanced for them. But actually, depending on what it is that you need to do, we really need to be training more workforce that can do more than just the basics, because that's what's going to help to make sure that the large amounts of data that is out there can be analyzed, and it can be used, and it can be interpreted, it can be actually be used to make decisions. Because as you heard from some of the talks, you can't just collect data if you're not going to use it for making decisions. And this is where we need a lot of people skilled enough to not only analyze it, but to interpret it, and then also have people that have the ability to sort of determine how useful that information is to make important decisions like in public health, but also important decisions that can help to develop more discoveries in genomics and how that can be used in the clinic or anywhere else.
Last question. What is the most pressing issue do you feel in workforce development at the moment? What were the concerns aired, for instance, during the session?
So the most pressing, so something that it probably is closely relevant to phage and the goals of phage, I think it would be, based on this paper, for example, understanding what is out there, right? Because there isn't a shortage of training. We know that. But I think it's understanding what resources are available for whom, so that the people that need to use them can access them. So having some kind of platform that allows you to search for this information, to utilize it. So obviously this information or these resources have to come with some kind of guidelines. This is how to use it. This is how it can be applied. Or even frameworks, as you heard about the frameworks, like how can I train my people in my department better, where we have people who are working in the lab and people who are using the data, like epidemiologists. How can we connect some of these professionals so that the training can become richer, just because you are actually exposing them to the different parts or the different parts of the pipeline that the data can be used. So bringing those kinds of resources together and developing frameworks and guidelines that allow people to use the existing resources, training materials, that will actually help to focus and to help people get the training that they need in their organizations. Yeah.
I made you speak a lot now. Leave it there. I was
Okay.
going to ask you, what was the plan, the great conquering the world plan that you cooked up over there with some colleagues?
Oh, I was just demonstrating how the competency framework was designed, and also some of the things that it can do in terms of, for example, understanding, capacity of capacity, as in like how many people in your environment, and capabilities, how many people can do this particular skills, and also just demonstrating that we've mapped all the topics from end-to-end topics, from biological topics all the way down to technical skills, to integrated skills, and to even project management skills, so that people that are interested in establishing genomics projects also can go through this kind of self-assessment to determine, well, what is it that I need to know in order for me to manage this particular genomics project. So we have an end-to-end a framework that allows that end-to-end analysis of all the different topics that are relevant for developing skills in pathogen genomics.